Hey there, all you space fanatics. Buckle up, because today's CurioFlow conversation is going to be out of this world.
We're talking SpaceX, Elon Musk, and their red-hot plans for colonizing Mars.
We've got a ton of really cool stuff to cover. We're going to be diving into Musk's latest announcements about timelines.
Taking a deep dive into the tech behind Starship.
Oh, and we're also going to explore some pretty mind-blowing ideas about how Mars's moon, Phobos, might be the key to it all. Think of it like your personalized mission briefing.
So if you're ready to blast off with us...
Let's get right to it.
All right, first things first, let's talk about Musk's timeline. The guy's always pushing the limits, right?
Oh, yeah. Always shooting for the stars. That's our Elon. So what's he saying now? When's the big day?
Well, he's saying uncrewed starships could be landing on Mars as early as 2026.
2026? Wow. That's just a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah, no kidding. And these unmanned missions are super important. They're all about testing the landing systems, making sure everything's running smoothly before we even think about sending humans.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Got to iron out those wrinkles. Don't want any surprises when we send those brave souls on that epic journey.
Yeah.
But assuming everything checks out, those unmanned missions go off without a hitch. What's next? What's the next step in Musk's master plan?
So then get this, he's aiming for crewed missions to Mars just 4 years later in 2030.
2030. So he's saying we could have boots on Mars in less than a decade. That's wild.
Ambitious. Yeah, but it wouldn't be an Elon Musk project without some serious ambition.
That's so true. So first, unmanned missions in 2026 to prep the landing zones. Then, boom, humans on Mars by 2030.
Exactly. In the grand vision, the ultimate goal is to have a full-blown, self-sustaining Martian city within the next 2 decades.
A Martian city. Okay, now that's something straight out of science fiction. Imagine humans living, working, thriving on another planet.
It's a pretty amazing vision, right? And, you know, Musk's whole thing is that this is crucial for humanity's long-term survival. He talks about increasing the probable lifespan of consciousness by making us a multiplanetary species.
Whoa. That's a lot to unpack. I mean, that statement really makes you think about our place in the universe. You know, it makes you think about the future of humanity itself. But before we get too lost in the existential side of things, let's bring it back down to Earth. Or Mars, rather. Let's talk about this star of the show, Starship.
Oh yeah, Starship. This thing is a beast, an absolute monster of a rocket, over 400 feet tall.
Wait, hold on. 400 feet? That's taller than the Statue of Liberty.
It is. And get this, it generates twice the thrust of NASA's Space Launch System.
Okay, we're talking some serious horsepower here. But what really makes Starship special, what really sets it apart from everything else we've seen, is its reusability, right?
Absolutely. Full and rapid reusability. That's the game changer, the secret sauce that could actually make Mars missions economically feasible.
Okay, I'm with you. Explain that.
Think of it like this. Imagine Starship as a giant interplanetary airplane. You land it on Mars, refuel it, and then send it right back up. No need to build a whole new rocket for every trip.
Ah, I see. That makes a lot of sense. Cutting down on costs, making the whole thing more sustainable. Very clever.
Yep, pretty ingenious. Of course, there have been, well, you know, a few bumps in the road during testing.
Yes, those rapid, unscheduled disassemblies we've all seen.
Exactly. But hey, every test flight, even the ones that don't go perfectly according to plan, gives them a ton of valuable data. It helps SpaceX fine-tune the system.
Right. They're constantly pushing the limits, learning, improving.
Totally. They're really paving the way for a whole new era of space travel. And speaking of pushing limits, have you heard about what they're planning for their 5th test flight?
Oh, yeah. They're going to try to land that massive, super heavy booster back on the launch mount, right?
Yeah.
Using those giant chopstick arms.
Yep, exactly that. It's going to be insane to watch.
It's going to be a nail-biter for sure, but super exciting. But hey, all this talk about landing on Mars has gotten me really pumped. But before we get ahead of ourselves, before we start planning our Martian vacations, let's take a little detour, shall we? A detour to a place you might not expect.
Ooh, a detour. I like it. Where are we headed?
We're going lunar.
Lunar. As in the moon.
As in Phobos, Mars' very own moon.
Ah, okay. I see where you're going with this. You want to talk about Avi Loeb and his ideas about Phobos, right?
You got it. This Harvard astrophysicist, Avi Loeb, he's making a pretty compelling case for why Phobos might be a smarter first stop than Mars itself.
He's got some interesting points for sure.
Okay, so riddle me this. Why would we aim for a little moon when we have this big, juicy planet right there?
Well, for starters, Phobos has incredibly low gravity, like almost unbelievably low. So low, in fact, that a Tesla Cybertruck could actually reach escape velocity there.
Wait, are you serious? We could launch a Cybertruck from Phobos. That's crazy.
Sounds nuts, right? But it's totally true that low gravity means escaping Phobos would be way easier, much less fuel intensive than launching from Mars.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I'm starting to see the appeal. What else makes Phobos so special? Why else is Loeb so interested in this little moon?
Well, it's also a lot closer to Mars than Earth is. So in terms of logistics, it makes a lot more sense as a staging point. And there's a good chance that Phobos has resources we can mine, water ice, maybe even some rare minerals.
So we could use those resources to build on Mars.
Exactly. It could be a sort of interplanetary refueling station or even a construction hub. And get this, Loeb's even talking about building a space elevator from Phobos down to the Martian atmosphere.
Hold on, a space elevator. Now that's some serious sci-fi stuff. I thought that was just a fantasy.
It might sound like it, but the concept is actually grounded in physics. And with Phobos' low gravity, it becomes a whole lot more feasible.
Okay, so you're telling me that we could build a giant elevator from a Martian moon down to the planet's surface.
It's not that far-fetched, at least not as far-fetched as it used to be. But there's a catch. There's always a catch, isn't there?
There is, isn't there? Lay it on me. What's the catch?
Well, there are some concerns about Phobos' long-term stability. See, it's slowly, very slowly, but steadily spiraling towards Mars.
Uh-oh. That can't be good.
No, not really. Eventually, Phobos is going to get too close and get torn apart by tidal forces. It's going to break up completely.
So we'd be building on a moon that's slowly but surely falling apart. Doesn't seem like the best long-term plan.
Exactly. So that's the big question mark, the challenge that scientists and engineers would have to figure out if we're serious about using Phobos as a base or a stepping stone to Mars.
Right, that makes sense. So we've got a lot to think about. We've got these incredibly ambitious timelines for reaching Mars, this groundbreaking new technology with Starship, and now this totally mind-blowing concept of using Phobos as a gateway to the Red Planet. Where do we even go from here? It's a lot to wrap our heads around for sure. But with all these possibilities swirling around, all these different paths we could take, it really begs the question, what does success on Mars even look like?
It's a question that's been bouncing around for ages. I mean, is it just a matter of planting a flag and calling it a day?
Right. Is it about setting up shop, building a permanent base? Or maybe it's about doing some crazy science, pushing the boundaries of what we know about Mars, the universe. Right. Or hey, maybe it's even about terraforming the whole planet, making it more like Earth.
Okay, those are some pretty ambitious goals. But maybe, just maybe, success on Mars, it isn't about reaching a specific destination. Maybe it's more about the journey itself. The challenges we overcome, the lessons we learn along the way.
Ooh, I like that. I like that perspective a lot. It's about pushing ourselves, about human ingenuity, that drive to explore, to understand the universe around us.
Right. And it's about taking those experiences, the good and the bad, the wins and the setbacks, and using them to grow, to evolve. Think about the Apollo missions. It wasn't just about getting to the moon, right? It was about proving what we could do, what humanity was capable of when we set our sights on something really audacious.
Totally. And you can't deny the impact those missions had. I mean, they ignited a whole wave of innovation and inspiration that we're still riding today. So just imagine what a successful Mars mission could spark.
Oh, man. The ripple effects would be off the charts. The tech advancements, the scientific discoveries, the cultural shifts. It could completely change how we see ourselves, how we see our place in the cosmos.
Mind-blowing stuff. Who knows, maybe someday, way down the line, we'll look back at these early Mars missions and realize they were just the first baby steps on a much bigger journey. A journey that could take us to the furthest reaches of the solar system and beyond.
Now that's a thought. It gets you fired up, doesn't it? But as we're getting all hyped up about this grand adventure, we can't forget about the responsibilities that come with it. Success, it's not just about being a technological badass.
Oh, I hear you. It's about being ethical explorers, about making sure we're treating Mars and space in general with respect.
Right. We got to ask ourselves the tough questions. What if there's life on Mars already? How do we make sure we don't mess up the planet's environment? These are things we can't just brush aside.
And it's not just about Mars, right? There are implications for Earth, too.
100%. I mean, all the resources, all the brain power, all the money that goes into Mars exploration, you got to wonder, could those be used to solve problems here at home? Climate change, poverty, all that stuff.
It's a balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got this burning desire to explore, to push the boundaries, but we also have a responsibility to take care of our own planet. and all the people on it.
It's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between pushing outward and taking care of what we have here. And it's also about making sure everyone benefits from space exploration, not just a select few.
It's definitely a complex issue. No easy answers. It's science, it's ethics, it's society. It's all tangled up together.
Right.
But hey, that's what makes these conversations so important, right?
Yeah, totally. We got to hash it out, think critically, talk about the tough stuff. That's how we figure out how to do space exploration the right way, the sustainable way, the way that benefits all of humanity.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of humanity, let's bring it back to you, our awesome listeners. What are your hopes and dreams for a Mars mission? What would make it a success in your book?
Is it about the science, the tech, about pushing human limits? Or is it about something bigger, something more intangible, like inspiring the next generation or getting a deeper understanding of our place in the universe? What do you think?
Hit us up on social media. Shoot us an email. Let us know. We want to hear from you.
Because at the end of the day, a Mars mission, it's not just about the folks planning it and executing it. It's about all of us. It's about the dreams we share, the hopes we hold, the collective desire to explore the unknown.
Now, let's be real. With all the hype around Mars, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. Well, maybe we should call it the Martian in the room. Because let's face it, Mars, it ain't exactly a walk in the park.
Not even close. I mean, living on Mars, that would be a whole different ballgame. We're talking extremes.
Extreme?
Extreme temperatures, like crazy swings. You go from scorching hot during the day to like bone-chilling cold at night.
Oh, yeah, those temperature swings, that's a big one. And then there's the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
Or the lack thereof.
Right, the atmosphere. It's super thin, like 100 times thinner than what we're breathing here on Earth. And most of it's carbon dioxide. Not exactly a lung full of fresh air.
Yeah, definitely not breathable. No strolling around on Mars without a spacesuit. And that thin atmosphere doesn't do us any favors when it comes to radiation either, does it?
Nope, not at all. You're exposed to a lot more radiation from the sun and space, so habitats would need some serious shielding to keep everyone safe.
Right. Got to protect those astronauts. So we got the temperature swings, we got the thin atmosphere, we've got the radiation. Anything else we should be worried about?
Well, there's the psychological aspect, right? Being millions of miles from home in this totally alien environment, the isolation, the confinement, that's got to take a toll.
Oh yeah, the isolation. That'd be tough. Even astronauts on the International Space Station, they deal with some psychological challenges. And they're just a few hundred miles up.
Exactly. It's a whole other level when you're talking about Mars. Millions of miles away, communication delays of up to 20 minutes each way.
Wow, 20 minutes. Imagine trying to have a phone conversation with that kind of lag.
It would be rough. So yeah, the psychological aspect, that's something that space agencies are taking very seriously. They're developing all sorts of training programs, trying to figure out what kind of person would thrive in that environment.
It's like putting together the ultimate space crew. You need the brains, the skills, the adventurous spirit, but you also need that mental toughness, that ability to handle the isolation, the stress.
Right. It's not just about being a brilliant scientist or a skilled engineer. You got to have the right stuff, the grit to handle whatever Mars throws at you.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about logistics. I mean, keeping a Mars colony running, that's a whole other challenge.
Oh, yeah. The logistics are mind-boggling. They'd need to be as self-sufficient as possible. Growing their own food, recycling water, figuring out how to generate power.
It's like starting a whole new civilization from scratch. But that's kind of the beauty of it too, right?
Totally. It's a chance to rethink everything. How we live, how we interact with our environment. It's a chance to innovate, to find solutions to problems we've never even encountered before.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. Ambitious timelines, groundbreaking technology, and some really thought-provoking ideas about Phobos.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that the journey to Mars, it's not going to be easy. There are going to be challenges, setbacks, maybe even some failures along the way.
But the potential rewards, they're huge. The scientific discoveries, the technological advancements.
And maybe, just maybe, it'll teach us something about ourselves, about humanity, It could change how we see our place in the universe.
It's an incredible adventure, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what the future holds?
Well, that's the exciting part, isn't it? The future's wide open. And if you ever look up at the night sky and see that red dot, just remember, the dream of reaching Mars, it's within our grasp.
That's a great note to end on.
Right.
Thanks for joining us on this CurioFlow conversation. Keep looking up and keep exploring the wonders of the universe.